All right, we'll do these one at a time here. All right, so we're going to be graphing inequalities on this test as well. This is our last section for this portion of chapter 2. And the easiest form to graph from is what type of equation when we're graphing lines? Y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form, okay? So we want to get this to be in that form. So what do we do first? How would I write this over here?
Minus x plus 8.
Okay, we want the term that has the x on it to be first so that it's in the mx plus b format. And what's the last step?
Divide everything by 4. And
Okay, do we flip this sign?
no.
The inequality? No. When do we do that?
When it's negative.
Only when you multiply or divide by a negative. Okay, so we've got y less than or equal to, how do we write this? Negative 1/4 plus 2. Okay, so now we have slope-intercept form. So let's review. Where's my first dot going to go? Up, down, left, or right? Where am I traveling? Up 2 because of the y-intercept right here. Okay, so I know the first point is here. And how do I get to my next point? Down 1/4 from the slope right here. So we go down 1/4. There's your second dot. Okay, you only need 2 dots as far as I'm concerned to graph a line. Okay, you don't need to make multiple points and connect them all. Now, we have a few things to think about. With this symbol right here, there's 2 things we know about it. Is it going to be a solid line or a dotted line, do you think? Why? It's going to be a solid line because it's or equal to. So let's write solid line. Okay, and then we have to figure out which way we're going to shade. Are we going to shade above or below the line? Why would it be below? Because it's less than. Okay, so shade below. If it's greater than, we shade above. Okay, so we've got a solid line right here. And it says we're going to shade below. So we go like this. And we're done. This one. We'll get y by itself. We got this. Now it's in slope-intercept form. All right, so where's my first dot? And then I go where? Down 3/1, or the same thing would be up 3 and back 1. Since our graph only goes that direction, we'll go that way. Okay, what 2 things do we know from this? It's a dotted line. And shade where? Above, because it's greater than. Okay, so we'll do a dotted line. And it says shade above. Now, many kids look at this and say, well, there really isn't an above, there's just left or right. But there is an above if you think about rain falling down and hitting the roof. There's the top of the roof and the bottom of the roof, right? Okay, so above would be over here. If it's straight up and down, then you do use the left or the right for the greater than and less than. Greater than to the right, less than to the left. That's only with the vertical ones. All right, look in here. We'll move our 2x first. Now what? Divide. What do we have to do? Now we make it less than because we divided by a negative. What's the slope? Won't be negative, right? The two negatives cancel out, so 2/3 x close minus 3. Okay, so now we can plot this. We've got -3 for our first point from the y-intercept. And where are we going from there?
2/3.
So where?
2/3.
Up 2 over 3. What do we know from this? It's dotted. And where are we shading? Okay, so we got a dotted line. Shade below. Questions? I know you've all seen this before, but it's probably been a couple years. From Algebra 1, 2 years ago. All right, let's talk about what these look like. Not going to be parabolas. That's if they're squared. They're the V graphs. Yep. Okay, so let's write ourselves a few notes here. Where does this move the graph? Review from last section. We're going left there. So move left. There's no other changes on there from what we talked about in our last section. But this we've talked about already. So what two things do we know from this?
It's going to be shaded above.
Shade above solid line. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to move left 3. The V graph goes up 1 over 1, both directions. We wrote down that it's a solid line, so I'm going to do that here. And shade above. So shaded above. Questions? Okay. Let's move this over. How am I going to write this? Is this going to be inside with the x or on the end?
On the end.
Yep. All right. Let's write some notes here. What do we know about this graph?
It's going to be up 4 flat.
Okay. What do we know about this?
It's going to be
Dotted.
dotted.
And shade where? That wasn't very confident. Above or below? Below. Okay, so we travel up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We go up 1 over 1 in both directions. You told me it's a dotted line. And shade below. Okay, this one already has y by itself, so let's just talk about what each of these things are doing. What does this tell us? Solid. And where are we shading? Shade below. What does this 2 do to the graph? Good. Not move. More. And where does this go? Okay, so let's get all of this on the graph. We know we're going to move up 3, so it's going to start here. Now the original size goes up 1 over 1 in each direction, but we know it's going to be more steep than that, so we should just draw it inside of those dots. So See, that's a steeper V. You would not want to ski down that hill. Probably do lots of somersaults. And the only thing left is the shade below. Kind of looks like a fox or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Questions?